It's called the Fight for 15, the union-backed campaign to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour in cities all across the country. So far, Seattle, Los Angeles and San Francisco are on board. And this summer, New York City raised the pay of fast food workers. But now, those same unions are busy making sure they don't have to play by the new rules, lobbying for an exemption from these wages. James Freeman, you tell me what's going on here.
Well, it's the continuing political fantasy that governments can legislate higher wages and more wealth for all of us. You're basically seeing the reality. Higher wages are mandated. Companies can't just pass it along to customers, so they look for technology to reduce the number of workers, cut their hours. That's what you're seeing at McDonald's and Wendy's. And at the same time, unions who've been pushing all these minimum wage increases are now saying they want to be exempted from it. And I think it doesn't make any sense unless you hypothesize that they're really not about workers' welfare. They're about power and dues for themselves. And this is a way to gain market share by being able to undercut the new legislated minimum.
They're saying to employers, hey, you don't have to pay the $15 an hour if that worker joins this union. That's basically it, isn't it? That's the exemption.
That's our hypothesis, because it's very bizarre behavior, isn't it? You have unions saying you've got to make these wages higher. Oh, except for us. Well, why do they not want higher wages for their own members? And I think the only explanation is what they really want more than worker welfare, worker income is dues. And the more members, the richer these unions get.
Dan, an interesting development from the National Labor Relations Board out with a big ruling this week. What did they say, and what's the impact on business?
Well, this ruling, which I must point out was made along partisan lines, 3 Democrats to 2 Republicans, said it basically affected businesses like franchises. It says that the parent company, say McDonald's, is now responsible for the wage and labor practices of all of their franchises, which by and large are independent businesses. If that were true, if that holds, it will give the unions a huge lever to go in and start unionizing most of these businesses if the parent company is responsible. It would affect restaurants, hotel businesses, part-time workers. It would completely disrupt a business model that is currently driving much of the economy, and it's an extraordinarily important decision. And the question is, how are they going to be able to turn this around? Because you cannot get a bill to overturn it through the Senate at this point.
So at this point, you can't overturn this thing. You can't change it.
You can appeal it legally, but that is a tortuous process, probably taking a couple of years.
Mary, is it a purely political move on the part of the administration, which is representing the unions, to get inside more businesses? Is that it?
Well, it certainly seems that way. I mean, it's obviously a very populist move, and it will hurt the weakest people in our society, not the politically powerful people. I mean, if you are a unskilled worker and you need your first job, whether you're in high school or you're a college dropout and you need a job, it's going to be harder and harder to find a job, because if you're an employer who can hire 2 people at $7.50 an hour or 1 person at $15 an hour, you've just knocked off 1 job. And also, you know, there are plenty of states in the South where the cost of living isn't as high, and so, you know, having a federal minimum wage at that level, again, it's good for sound bites, because it's sort of this idea that everybody's going to be richer. But what it means actually is that fewer unskilled people will be employed.
But it sounds like a big last-minute desperate push to get the $15 minimum wage in there, get the NLRB in there before there's a change of politics in 18 months' time.
They installed a $15 minimum wage for hotels in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and Moody's reported that for the first time, job growth in hotel workers is down 2% over the past 6 months.
I do believe that tells a story. All right, thanks, everybody. We have to take one more break, and when we come back, our hits and misses of the week.